Well, Couch Critics, welcome back. I think we've got a pretty fun episode installed. We're going through all the A-League stadiums that have been or will be used for the remainder of the regular season, for the season that 21-22. There's a crap load of stadiums. There's over like 15, 16, maybe even 20. I'm not going to count them up. But what we're basically...
because Western United just playing about 7 different places?
Yeah, well, they've used Cardinia Park, the Geelong Oval ground. They've used 2 grounds in Ballarat. They've used the York Park in Launceston, and they've used Amy Park in Melbourne.
Wild.
But anyway, quite a lot of stadiums. Anyway, we've got a lot of stadiums to get through. So buckle in, strap in tight, hold on, and let's go through it. We'll be ranking them from S, which I believe means super, and then A, B, C, D. Leave us a like, leave us a subscribe, and let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with our selections.
Absolutely roast us down there for sure.
Yeah. And we're going to start off with a stadium that neither of us have been to, and I'm sure what we say will get a fair bit of opinion going. We're going to start with, and I'm actually not going to say the sponsor. I better say the sponsor's name because no one's really going to know what they are. Technically, it's the Melbourne Rectangular Stadium because in Melbourne, there's no such... It's not normal to have a rectangular stadium. It's normally oval. But commonly known as Amy Park, used 32 times, will be used 32 times by the end of the regular season. Samuel, your initial thoughts on Amy Park from just watching games and reading about it and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, Melbourne Rectangular Stadium, it's just pure Asian vibes, hey? Like anytime the Asian Confederation comes down, cover up all the sponsors. This is Melbourne Rectangular Park. Thank you very much. Look, it looks a dream. It does look like one of the better stadiums in Australia. When it was built, that was all the buzz. Like finally a rectangle stadium in Melbourne so that fans can be close to the pitch. I don't know, like the ends are still a fair way back. I think that's to give it the ability to have try zones and stuff for rugby. And but on the sides it looks pretty close. And 2 tiers. Is there a 3rd tier on the side and up the top end?
There's 2 tiers on the sides, I think, and it's just 1 tier behind the goals.
Right. Yeah, okay. When Melbourne Victory are there and the tiers are packed, looks pretty good. We haven't seen it packed out for a while, but yeah, I think it's one of the better stadiums in Australia. I think good atmosphere, looks good, looks pretty from outside. We haven't been there, so I can't speak much to the facilities, but it's one of the newer stadiums, so I imagine they're actually fairly decent. Let us know.
What do you thinking? I'm thinking probably A. Are we going to go top tier, or are we just going to go A?
Yeah, see, it's hard to say without having been there.
I mean, you think where it's located? Yeah. It's located in that awesome sporting hub down there with the tennis stadium and the MCG and Etihad or Marvel, all kind of in a good walking area. So getting there is super easy. 30,000, I think that's a pretty solid capacity for a football stadium in Melbourne. I'd probably say, man, you could almost say S tier. But I just don't know. Yeah. I feel like I'd be happy to put it in A.
Actually, something that might knock it down is the issue it has with seagulls. And
it's right on the water, though. I mean,
you can always
what do you want to do? Shoot them?
The seagull sirens going off, and I know it. Do they poo everywhere? I imagine that might bring down. I think I'd be comfortable saying it's at the top end of A. But not quite into that.
No, I'm happy with that. Let's go with that. The next one is a bit of a regular ground in a regular season, but obviously this year it's only going to host, or it's already hosted the One Game Westpac Stadium or the Wellington Regional Stadium. For me, this is on an oval. So for me, an oval ground is really going to knock your rating down. But when it's actually full, well, not full, it gets a decent crowd. I think it's a really nice stadium in Wellington. For me, though, the oval,
17,000 people there on the weekend.
Yeah, even there to see their team get smashed, they were still supporting him right to the end. For me, though, I don't think I can. we've never been there, so we can't be too critical of it. For me, just being a football being played on an oval, it knocks it down a bit for me.
Is it in the bottom tier?
No, I wouldn't put it at the bottom tier. Just because, like, we've seen what it's like when it gets a good crowd and it's really good. And I haven't been to it. That's why I don't want to be too critical of it. And yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon? Do you reckon it should be bottom tier?
I think it's like one tier the whole way. It's when you watch the video, like when you watch footage of it, all those fans on the non-camera side are just like being peppered by the sun the whole game.
Yeah.
It's
that's why they take their shirts off.
It's way too big.
Yeah.
I would put it in D. The only thing that bumps it just up to C for me is it has one of the best nicknames, I think, of any football stadium, the Cake Tin. Like, I think for the name alone, the Cake Tin, it gets
you almost convinced me to put it to D, but yeah, okay, let's go C. Next one, it hosted its one and only game back in, I think, round 2 or 3 when Macarthur had their stadium issues, Penrith Stadium. For me, this is a very sentimental ground for me, going to many NRL games there as a kid. But, you know, it's only hosted the one game this season. It has hosted A-League games in the past. Wanderers had a regular season game there. They've had an FFA Cup game there in the past. When the Wanderers came in, I thought, because there is a bit of a supporter base and membership base out in Penrith, I actually thought they probably maybe should have taken 1 or 2 games to Penrith. And they should have actually taken a lot more games to Penrith when we knocked down Parramatta Stadium. Yeah. And this stadium's going to be knocked down at the end of the year. There's a new Penrith Stadium coming, about 25,000, modelled off the new Parramatta Stadium. So I think Wanderers should be looking to maybe take 1 or 2 games to Penrith a year. But I'm biased. I'd put it in S+ tier, but I think it's just hosted one game. I don't think we can rate it too highly. But it is a good suburban ground. The Leagues Club is across the road. There's good parking there. It's also next to the harness racing track, which is plenty of parking unless you're playing on a Thursday night when the Trots is on. I think it's a good suburban ground. But for me, I can't rate it. We can't rate it too highly because it's not a regular A-League ground.
Oh, yeah, look, I think you're right. Absolutely more games should have been played there when the Wanderers were playing at Spotless, because Spotless was terrible. This would have suited them way better. And surely it would have worked alongside Penrith games. I've been there for that FFA Cup game. Wanderers lost to Sydney FC that day. It's fantastic. I think some of the...
Should have left you there.
Some of the pluses, the grandstands are quite good. The hills, they're not the best hills in Australian football stadium. They're fairly average. It's got a big screen. From what I remember,
one of the hills is nicknamed Beer Hill. So,
from what I remember, the food and drink facilities were pretty average and super expensive. But you do have Panthers across the road. It's really easy to get to because it's just off the M4 in Sydney, and then just down the main drag, and then heaps of parking. Krispy Kreme's is across the road, and a Macca's,
Steakhouse, KFC. There's indoor skydiving. Anyway, we're getting too caught up on this one.
But facilities around are pretty good. It actually makes it a good experience to go to the stadium. Yep. But the stadium itself, it is a bit run down, but it's got a lot of heart. I'd be happy to put it in the B. It's got potential. It's sad that they're going to knock it down, to be honest. It's a nice ground. There's some good stuff. It's easy to get to. It's good viewing most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Penrith fans are a bit, torn about it being knocked down and then being rebuilt. I mean, rebuilt, we get a brand new world-class facility. But, it's been there for 50 years. It's a good ground for what it is. I'm pretty torn too. But anyway, we'll leave that on B. We're going to make sure we don't get too caught up talking about these. So the next one is Campbelltown Stadium. I haven't been to Campbelltown Stadium. I've seen it on TV. Obviously, the crowds aren't particularly good. But this is a good football venue in terms of just, close to the field. There are hills as well. I'm not a massive fan of hills because I think we should just be using all-seater stadiums, but it's what it is. For me, I think this is a good football venue. I'd probably bang it right down the middle. I'd probably put it in B as well. I'm not particularly sure of the parking there, but I think it's quite close to the station. So probably be pretty good to get to if you're on the train. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know much about it?
I'm probably going to go straight down the middle with a B as well. It looks, it's not too big. The grandstands are.
It's probably too big
close.
for Macarthur.
Absolutely. For a proper team with a fan base, it'd be fantastic. The pitch is pretty good.
Yep.
Usually, not at the start of the season. But
I hope that Macarthur can build a stronger supporter base in the coming years. And I think, if they can get around 8, 9, 10,000 to that game on a regular basis, it's going to be a great venue. And then for local derbies with the Wanderers and Sydney FC, I think it'll be really good. Next one, Central Coast Stadium. I think most people love this venue. So we've both been to it. I don't think we've been together. I went there for the semi-final with Central Coast and Macarthur last time. It's actually just like the location, the field, right on the water. It's really beautiful. The parking, though, is pretty average. I have to give it that.
Yeah.
And actually getting in, I think there's only 2 entry points. And I think with COVID, it was just so much more harder. So while very picturesque, very beautiful, a real proper football venue, there are some downsides to it.
Yeah, that's right. I think that the grandstands themselves, they're nothing flashy, but they do the job. You get a good view of the football no matter where you sit.
Yeah.
And the facilities actually in the behind the grandstands and in the grandstands for food and stuff are pretty good. The entry points and the parking kind of suck. The Leagues Club isn't the best there. The view, it's mint. And it's a great away day, driving up to Gosford.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of those issues probably knock it back just down to an A.
Okay.
The view, it should be S. But there's just some simple things that just stop it from really being a world-class stadium.
Yep. So are we rating it on the stadium itself or the extra bits and just the looks? Yeah, okay. That's fair. I think that's fair. I think now that we've talked about it, I think, A is probably quite acceptable.
If you miss the first 5 minutes of a game because you're trying to get into the stadium, the stadium's not good enough. That's my view.
Yeah. All right. Next one, Eden Park in Auckland. It's going to be hosting a game this weekend as we record, whether the video actually comes out in time for it. I don't think we've both been to this one. It's one of those grounds that I think is a bit, it can be spread out to a proper oval for a cricket game, and then the grandstands can be brought a bit closer. I think, don't quote me on it. I'm not from New Zealand, so don't quote me on it. And they can be brought a bit closer for rugby union and for football. For me, once again, I think it's similar to Westpac or the Wellington Stadium. It's too big. They've pulled some good crowds there. Wellington Phoenix at Eden Park, around 20,000. It's too big. It's too far from the action most of the time. I'd probably have to put it in C tier.
Yeah, I think nothing to add. C. Yeah, straight down the middle. There's a reason I only host one game a season.
Yep. Next one, Dolphin Stadium. Or Moreton Bay Daily Stadium.
This one's an interesting one because it's appropriately sized for Brisbane. The lack of cover maybe hurts them. Although it's Brisbane, it doesn't rain. Well, it rains everywhere. But throughout summer, it's usually a pretty good spot for Brisbane. Maybe a bit of shade would be nice. Yeah, look, it's definitely on the smaller end. The Leagues Club overlooking is a pretty interesting feature, but it doesn't look great to have Dolphins written at the back when Brisbane Roar are playing. Yeah, look, all up, it's kind of nice. It's perfect for Brisbane, but I know that it's probably not in the best spot. It's really hard for Brisbane fans to get there. If you live in Redcliffe, excellent. But for most Brisbane fans, that probably knocks it down. I'd probably say it's probably in the B. It's nothing flashy, but it's not terrible. You're close to the action, and it's a good atmosphere there from what I can tell.
Yeah, I probably agree. I think with some more cover and with the Dolphins coming into their role the next couple of years, I assume there'll be a lot more investment into this stadium. And so whether they add a few more grandstands near the Leagues Club or whatnot, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think B's quite fair.
Are the Dolphins playing at Suncorp?
They'll play a majority of their games at Suncorp, and they'll play a couple at. They'll be based basically at Dolphin Centre. They'll train the headquarters they'll play a couple of games maybe. Anyway, next one, Glen Willow Regional Sports Stadium out at Mudgee. It hosted Mariners and Macarthur earlier in the year, and that was a game I attended. It's great to be there at a venue in the Central West. It hosted a game a couple of years ago, Wanderers and Brisbane, and the pitch is an absolute carpet. If we're voting on the pitch, the quality of the surface, it is god tier. It is by far one of the best ground to play football on in any of the stadiums we're going to talk about. But the Greyhound Centre only probably holds about 1,500. It's in a regional town. It's going to host one game. For what it is, though, I think it's really well set up. There's great parking. The food facilities good. It's such a great hub for sports venues in the Mudgee town. But you're trying to sell a stadium it's just not an elite professional stadium. It's good for what it is, but
yeah,
maybe C.
I agree on the pitch. I used to play on it when I played for Western New South Wales, and it's beautiful. The grandstand is pretty cool. Yeah, like we were saying, it's a small regional town, and it's a schmick facility. The change rooms are cool, but yeah, it's 3 hills and a 2,000-seater stadium. So yeah, I think it's got to be down in the D for an A-League game. It's good fun. Good fun to turn up.
Okay.
But I don't know. You don't want to be taking games there really that often.
Not too often.
Once a season.
Yeah.
Once a season's enough.
All right, we'll chuck it in.
And I mean, if you look at the other one a seasons, Eden Park, there's no comparison. Eden Park is in a C. I think Glen Willow has to be a D.
Yeah, you make a good argument. The next one is the old Perth Oval, which is, I don't know what their sponsor is, HBF. Yeah, HBF Stadium. If you actually look at the venue from an aerial view, it's actually, if you got OCD, it's a bit out of, I think their grandstands are a bit out of line with each other. But I think this is a good venue for football. It's almost solely used for football. I think the Western Force Rugby Union use it, but not often. Haven't been there. I assume you haven't been there. But from watching it on TV, it looks pretty good. Ticket prices, though, from what I've heard, aren't particularly friendly. They're probably some of the worst in the A-League, man. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Look, that's by the by. I reckon that ticket prices are another video, maybe. I love it. It's a place I'd really like to go watch football. The top tier is like a cool angle, so I reckon you'd have a great view in most of the stadium. The shed is iconic. It's close to the ground, close to the action, but still has a bit of character. I think
one of the only standing rooms when there's no COVID, one of the only standing room venues in the country for football.
Yeah, and when I think as a football facility in Australia, it's not too big. It has the potential to host a bigger crowd than it usually does, but I think it's really nice. Without having been there, we haven't got many in the super tier. I don't know.
You're thinking about it, aren't you?
It gets close for me. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Are we going to be safe and say it's an A? I don't know. What do you think?
I haven't been, so I can't really comment. But we're rating on all these venues. A lot of them we haven't been to. Oh man, what are people going to think if we put Central Coast in A but not S? No, let's do it. Let's. I think we're doing it. We're putting HBF State Park in S by the sounds of it.
I have no idea how you'd get there, but
yeah, maybe that'll be our undoing. So let us know in the comments. Have we absolutely butchered that one? Anyway, we're moving on.
Like it's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Leichhardt Oval. You've said you've been to Leichhardt Oval.
Yep. Yeah. Look, let's just put it down where it deserves to be in the D.
Okay. All right. It definitely, from my understanding. Yeah, go on.
It's a small suburban ground. It's got character, but it's crap to get to. The facilities suck. You've got one of the grandstands, the old cricket stand, that's miles away. This concrete concourse, there's one way in and out. It's a shocker. Sure, hosts an okay football, but it shouldn't be getting 1 or 2 games a season, really. It's outdated. It's historic, yes, but no, it's just not a good ground.
I didn't know much about it no, just its location. Until the other day, I was talking to a co-worker and we're talking about the old Balmain Rugby League Club and talking about how hard it is to get in there, to get a park. It's basically a one-way street. And it makes sense why, you know, a lot of people, West Tigers tragic fans, are like, oh, they should upgrade it. And from what I understand, it's like, no, they should. Like, it's iconic, I get that, but like it hasn't kept up with the times. It was a venue when the population demographic of Sydney was very different. And it's just now all housing. There's no public transport. Getting there is a joke. Yeah. So yeah.
And the stadium itself just really isn't that quality.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, the next one is, gosh, can you tell what that one is?
I think it's Mars down in the Bulldogs
Ballarat.
Training. Yeah, Ballarat.
Yeah, Ballarat. Yeah, Mars. Well, for me, I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to put it in D. Yeah, it's a suburb. It's a rural Victorian AFL ground.
The grandstands are tiny. They're so far from the action. Yeah, it's just a D. Just move on.
Yeah. Next one, Hindmarsh Stadium.
Oh, total opposite. Let's up we go.
Yeah, I think we put this in the S, and now let's talk about it. I think this is the venue that all, like, this is like what we want in like a football stadium everywhere. Well, probably. They're getting cover for the other side of the grandstand now, which is really good. I don't know about the location. We don't know so much about these stadiums, whatever. It's just so great to watch a football game. It's ideally sized, about 17,000. I think that's really good for an A-League club. It just looks and feels how a football stadium should feel and look. I said that twice, but you know, what are your thoughts on it, Samuel?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's picturesque. It's the perfect size really for an A-League stadium. You're close to the action, like it's football specific. No one else plays there. There's no NRL down in Adelaide, so the pitch is always fantastic. Once the cover comes in on the second stand, like they're improving it, so it's going to go even higher in our ranking next season. And just looks like a great place to watch football. I don't think there is much of a bad seat there. You know, people can correct us if they know. But, you know, for a city like Adelaide, I think it's pretty awesome. It's closer to the city circle than Adelaide Oval.
Okay.
But you know, it's maybe not in the best position. But football stadium, at least what we can comment on, it's got to be up top.
No, I've just double checked that one we put in the D tier before, which I don't think we're going to change anyway, was actually York Park in Launceston. So I don't think we're going to change it. The next one we actually had on the list is actually Eureka Stadium or Mars Stadium, the one in Ballarat. So let's just chuck that in the D tier as well, because
you don't have a lower tier.
Oh, fail tier. Like we should just, a Z tier. I don't know. Anyway, let's go into the Western Sydney Stadium now, or CommBank Stadium, as it is known for sponsorship reasons. Thank you to CommBank for supporting, for sponsoring this video. This is a game with a venue we've been to several times. I think for me, this is the ideal kind of stadium, at least for rectangle stadiums. This is what we should be trying to build for brand new stadiums in this country. I think it's a world-class facility. I think of all the venues in Australia, I think it's right up there. Probably the only downside for me is there are probably too many corporate seats, because in any kind of game, a lot of them can be left empty. Thankfully, that's the side where you're filming from, so you don't see too many of it. There's a big parking tower right next to it. You can get the light rail or tram or something from Parramatta Stadium. We can just walk up from Parramatta Stadium. It's not that hard. I think it's for me, I'd probably put it S tier.
Yeah, I think,
unless you can argue me out of it.
Look, I think everything's right. This is the future of stadiums. It's the newest stadium until the Sydney Football Stadium kind of gets finished.
And it seems like it's just going to be a slightly bigger stadium compared to this one.
I think my one criticism like, because standing up in the top tiers is fantastic. They've got safe standing for the RBB.
Oh yeah,
awesome. So there's lots of positives. The corporate facilities, yes, there's lots, but they're good. I think the one thing, my one criticism of it is it's soulless. That hasn't been helped by the Wanderers' performances there. But I think the grey seats, yeah, it's just a bit too non-distinct. So I still think it's in the S tier because, yeah, this is the current generation of stadium. What we expect, it's got the technology, all of that's really good. The outside as well, like getting to the stadium, that's all great. But it is just a bit of a soulless bowl for me. So that could be improved. The Wanderers need to kind of perform better there and then add some flavour for me.
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. From the Sydney derbies we've been to, they've been pretty good. I've probably on total since COVID, I've probably been to 4 or 5 games that weren't the derby. It's really hard to get to games from Bathurst, so no hate in the comments, please. But you know, we'll wait and see the next couple of years. Hopefully, some better times, but probably not. But anyway, let's move on to a pretty average, I think it's another D tier stadium. It's Cardinia Park. I don't know if I pronounced that right. That's the Geelong ground where the Geelong Cats play, where Western United have played 2 games this season.
I think it maybe gets this. This season it's looked a bit worse with the works going on.
Yeah,
because they're actually upgrading it. I think it maybe creeps itself into the C grade in just that it is undercover. There's a proper grandstand. There's facilities. It's probably, compared to the Mars Stadium and the other one,
Launceston.
Launceston. It's got a bit of quality to it. Like there is some good seats there. You are still pretty far from the action, but at least if you can be up high, then you get an okay view. So yeah, I'm tempted just to put it up into the C, just because like Eden Park, it's actually a bit more of a facility.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Well, the next one we have is, you might not be too familiar with this one. It's called Moorshed Park. This is in Ballarat. So Western United played 1 game here. This is actually, I think they call it Ballarat Regional Soccer Complex. This is actually the ground I think they should be playing games on when they play in Ballarat. It holds about 5,000, but it's a rectangle field. There's a little grandstand right next to the action. I don't know why they haven't played at that in the past. It played 1 game, I think only a couple of weeks ago. It had 1 game. That's all I can tell you about it. It's a proper football facility, a regional football facility though. So
yeah, it looked really good on telly. Absolutely. If they could get a few more decent grandstands in there, it'd be better. But even just something temporary behind the goals, or but I think for me it has to go with Glen Willow down in that D spot. Unfortunately, it's just it's not ideal.
What's that one? That's an oval too. Can't tell which one that one is. Anyway, we'll worry about that one later. Next one is Hunter Stadium up in Newcastle. Been home of the Jets now for forever now. I went to this venue 15 years ago, I think, for an NRL game. I can't really remember that much. It was 15 years ago. It's probably a little bit too big. Like it holds, estimated capacity is about 33,000. Whether they actually have ever got that, I don't know. But I think it's a good venue when there's a good crowd. I can't remember the parking. It's 15 years ago, man. My dad was driving. Any thoughts on?
The parking's huge. The parking area is huge. I've driven past it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, again, I think this one's a little bit. It's probably just worse than Central Coast Stadium in that the grandstands do the job. You're close to the action. It's got the hills, which again, they're not the best, but at least there's a bit of seating kind of in front. But I don't think it's anything to write home from. I don't know how much cover you actually get in those grandstands from rain. So I'd be tempted just to put it middle of the line, B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. Does this one look like Cogra to you?
I think. Well, they have been going in alphabetical order, so
I
it
changed a
might be
few up.
Net Strata Jubilee.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it
That's
does
what I'm
look
talking
like
about, Jubilee or Cogra. Yeah. It looks like it. All right, cool. We'll talk about this one then, because I thought I forgot this one. I still can't remember what this oval one is right here. But anyway, you want to talk about Cogra, Sammy? You've probably been to a lot more. I've been to a couple of games at Cogra. I haven't found the parking too difficult, although it's been during COVID time, so there was never much of a crowd. You want to talk a bit about Cogra or Jubilee?
Yeah, over the 4 seasons that Sydney FC have been at Cogra, probably been to about, I'll probably be up towards the 30 games now. So I normally go to about 5 or 6 a season, plus Champions League games the last couple of years as well. Getting there isn't super easy. If you catch a train, it's actually quite easy, but parking's not the best around the area. It's suburban ground again. Only one kind of proper grandstand, but there is seating right around, and a hill on one side. It's awesome for a summer day to sit on a hill. So I've got nothing against hills. I think they have their place in Australian football culturally, particularly for a summer competition.
Yep.
I sat actually up in the top tier for the first time just a couple of weeks ago, and the view was pretty good. But to be honest, yeah, look, it's not the best stadium. It's hard to get to. Look, the facilities aren't amazing. It is a bit old. Yeah, look, I think I don't know. Is it a B or a C? Like,
I'd probably put it in a B. I think it is actually one of the. Yeah, I think it's a decent football ground. Is it right up there? I don't know. I've just realized that's actually not Cogra Oval. I've actually forgotten to put Cogra Oval in. So we're going to say this one was Cogra. Just play along with us and say this was Cogra. It's not Cogra, but let's just say it's Cogra for this. Unless I've already put it in and I've made a stuff up.
nah.
But yeah, we'll put this in 1B. This one is Shark Park, Endeavour Field.
That's right. It's held 1 or 2 behind closed doors games.
One. There was the Wellington Phoenix game about a month or two ago. No fans in that one.
Well, like 15 Wellington or fans turned up, I think.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. But I think this ground hosted Sydney Olympic for a few years back in the NSL days. It's another suburban ground. It's undergoing a renovation at the moment.
Yeah, look,
probably C.
I think it would be a fantastic football stadium.
Well, that's where they wanted to play that Southern expansion at.
Yeah. I think if you could get an A-League, you won't get an A-League team, but a second division team playing out of Shark Park would be mint. I reckon it would be fantastic. Yes, it's suburban, maybe a little bit old, but being redeveloped. So yeah, put it in C. I think it is that tier above those terrible fields, but yeah, no A-League club's going to play there often.
Yep. Lucky last, Wollongong. This is a venue I think you've been to a few times. So no thoughts on it? Obviously, it's got a very good picture there, right next to the ocean. Is it as good as it looks?
The view, like Central Coast, is pretty awesome. Right on the beach, that hill. I've not sat on the hill, but I imagine it'd be great with that sea breeze coming in over the top on a summer day. The grandstand itself it's not bad. Like, it's pretty steep and you get some good views. You don't often see people sitting behind one of the goals, but it has got that there. Like, it could have an awesome crowd. I think Wollongong, it'd be amazing to have them in the A-League.
Yeah,
and this ground is good enough to have an A-League team at. Downsides are, like, you don't have much leg room in the seats. I'm being a bit picky there. And it has only 2 entrances, and it can take a long time. I remember going for an FFA Cup game, and there was only 5,000 people, 6,000 people, and it took 15 minutes to get into the stadium. It's right on Wollongong, plenty of food around. The facilities aren't the best at the stadium, so look, it's pretty cool. It could it could definitely host an A-League team. You know, Wellington, it was a good home for them. It's a pretty cool little stadium. I would say it's probably a B.
B, okay. I've just realised this one's Cogra, and this one must be the Geelong Stadium. Anyway, so you reckon a B?
Yes.
I almost thought it was an A, but
an A. Well, like,
I don't know. We haven't been too generous. We've only put 5 in the top 2 tiers, and all the rest of. I mean, yeah. I what's the parking like there?
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, I think parking for me, you know, is going to play a part. You know, if you want people to come from Sydney, from Western Sydney, potentially Canberra one day.
Trek from the train station as well. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not the easiest to get to. There's a Macca's close by, but you can't park there.
Yeah, it's great looking. Like, you look at that photo overlooking the beach.
Yeah,
but it just can't be a good looking photo. I think there's a lot more to it. But yeah, all right. No, oh yeah, okay, all right. I'm with you on B.
We've almost got a bell curve there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, that looks good. Well, I'm sure we'll we've created a bit of a debate now. So get in those comments and tell us how right or probably wrong we've been in this list. Maybe we can do another one again in a couple of years' time. We'll have the new Sydney Football Stadium on there. Hopefully we'll see a few more venues in there. Hopefully the new Penrith Stadium in 3-4 years' time. Anyway, yeah, drop us a like, hit subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, or even if you've hated this video. But until next time, we'll see you around.